Welcome to Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm Ket.
I'm Davius.
And this is episode number 18. We did it, guys. We have a guild bank. We got our 10th guild member. Shout out once again. I think we're just going to have a new segment in every episode. It's just a shout out to Grizzly Khan because it seems like every week he does something awesome for us.
This is the Grizz shout out section of today's episode. Yeah,
today's Grizzly shout out. He recruited our 10th guild member so that we can have a guild bank now. And he also twisted my arm into making us some guild tabards and getting some stuff going in Discord and really just kind of making sure that I'm staying on top of things and doing the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing to make all the stuff fun and all that. So thank you, Grizz, for just being a part of what we do and adding to everything. And it's awesome to have you around, dude.
Yeah, very much. He's been awesome for the guild. And now that we've got 10 members, we're basically just stampeding through Nirn. It's we're just
it's a Stoon storm.
Place. Yeah, Stoon storm.
Yeah. And so really not a lot of announcements. We'll just move right on to the gold vendor. So this week on the gold vendor, oh, by the way, if anyone doesn't know what the gold vendor is, it's a special vendor that appears in Cyrodiil every weekend at your home faction's home base. It's a Khajiit vendor that's like glowing with this bright gold aura. That's how you can spot her. And she just sells a random assortment of monster sets and gold jewelry. And every weekend it's different. And it's a good opportunity to spend some alliance points. If you have a whole bunch hoarded up and you don't have much that you really spend them on, this can be a really good opportunity to get something out of that. So this week we have Bloodspawn and Swarm Mother for the monster helms, and those are both headpieces. And then for the jewelry, we have Jailer's Tenacity, Livewire, Thunderbug, and Lich. Those are all rings. And I think probably the most valuable one there is probably Lich. That's a really, really good Magicka sustain set. When you cast a Magicka ability, when you're under 33% Magicka, your Magicka recovery is increased by 1,000 for 20 seconds, and it has a 1 minute long cooldown. So it actually amounts to a whole lot of sustain over the course of a fight. And most Magicka builds, if you are looking for a sustain solution, this one set will take care of it. It'll just freeze you up. You don't have to invest in sustain at all. You can just have Lich, and that's all the sustain you need. So just do damage glyphs, damage Mundus, everything else.
Kind of the original Magicka sustain set, right?
Yeah. And there's other great options now too, but this is still a really good one. And a unique thing about Lich as compared to other sustain sets is that it's back barrable, meaning you can have a back bar Lich weapon and have something different on your front bar, and Lich still has basically all of its functionality. Because when you get that proc, you can be on the back bar, get that proc to get the increased 1,000 Magicka recovery. Then when you swap to the front bar, that proc is still active, so you're still getting it the whole time. So a lot of people will put a master destruction staff on the front bar, or maybe even have some sort of setup where there's a different 5-piece set is active on the front bar, things like that. Especially now with finding ways to work in mythic items, and maybe if you want to have a mythic item and a full monster set, this is one of the sets that would allow you to do that, because you could back bar this, front bar a different 5-piece set, and that would work. So yeah, Lich, great set.
Yeah, very good set.
Pretty slim week on news. Things are kind of just calming down. We're just getting into this expansion. Not a lot of new stuff coming out, but there are a few things. There was a press release titled Community Guides, Greymoor, and Update 26 Special. And basically what it is just a collection of links to videos from various content creators. And it's a lot of basically beginner guides. So it's a guide for getting started with antiquities, or just a brand new beginner guide if it's the first time you've ever played ESO, or things like that. One interesting thing I saw was there's a role-playing guide on there, which that's not... I know people role-play in this game, but I never really thought of it as being something that you would need a guide for. But I guess it does make sense, those communities do have kind of ways of doing things, and if you don't know how to how to act right, how to be right, then you can kind of sort of make a fool of yourself, and they won't kind of accept you into whatever they're doing there. I'm not a big role play expert, but I've seen people talk about it and discuss it, and so there is like etiquette that you need to follow. So that's pretty interesting. A lot of build videos as well. It's just a really cool article. If you're fairly new to the game, or if you have a friend that is new to the game, this one article just has like a really huge collection of just really cool videos that are great for new players. So I'll put a link to that in the description if anyone is interested in that. Another thing on the oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think this is a really good idea. I think it's them, them being smart. They're recognizing with this expansion, the Skyrim theme. There's a lot of new players right now. So I just thought this was really kind of cool, smart thing for them to do.
Yeah, the Skyrim expansion is definitely bringing in some new players. Also, this is the next kind of thing we're going to talk about is ESO is on sale right now, up to 60% off. So if you buy it like directly from ElderScrollsOnline.com, it's like $8 right now. So yeah, that combined with this expansion that just came out, I think there are a lot of new players, and that's probably very much a reason why they put that article up there. This other thing isn't really news, but it's just something that I thought it's worth mentioning. It's a developer statement on this bug that maybe you've encountered, where it's with Antiquities when you're at an excavation site and you're excavating something, and then the screen will just suddenly start twisting and tilting wildly. It's totally disorienting. It honestly makes me nauseous. It has made me misclick.
Yes.
Like more than once, where I actually like fail the excavation.
I have. That's what I was gonna say. I'm still surprised how many times this has caused me to click the wrong spot.
Yeah, and so there's no real explanation in the game, and I was thinking maybe it's by design, like they're trying to add an element of randomness or something. I don't know. But turns out that's not the case. There's a developer statement on one of the forum discussions about this, basically saying this is not intended, totally a bug, and if it happens to you, you should type /bug into the chat and report it. And they're working on getting that figured out. So, and that's pretty much it for news. Like I said, a really quiet news week. People are just digging into the expansion. Playing through the story and getting these new builds figured out and stuff, and things are kind of quiet on the news front at the moment. So why don't we just get right into what we've been doing in the Elder Scrolls Online here lately? Davius, why don't you kick us off, man? What have you been doing this week?
So kind of as you were just saying, players are kind of really diving into the story and the quest of this new expansion. News is kind of dying down. I actually completely finished not only the Greymoor quest, finished it up this week, but I actually finished up the entire zone. So I did all the quests, everything, except for completing all the Harrowstorms. We'll get to that in just a second, but just kind of initial reactions. I'm not going to give away any spoilers or anything like that, but I really enjoyed it. We've said
surprise, surprise. Davis enjoyed the Nord expansion.
Davis enjoyed the Nord experience. But we've said for multiple episodes now just how the PvE side and the quests and the zones have really just stepped it up the last couple patches and expansions. And I just really, finishing it all up, this was really just a continue of that same story. They've really kind of feel like they've hit a groove where they understand what they're doing. They had new creative aspects, new unique style quests and things like that. I had a lot of fun, and I was happy that I didn't do it. I didn't finish it super quick. I actually kind of took my time with it. Read the dialogue, went through it. It was a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what the next kind of patch expansion is going to be, where this is kind of leading.
Are you excited to do it all 6 or 7 more times with all your other Nord characters?
Readying up the next Davius Nord character to do it all over again. I mean, it's,
so you've 100%ed Greymoor and Blackreach both?
Yes.
Wow, that's impressive.
Now I will say this. Like I said, I haven't done the Harrowstorms, and That's because these are tricky. So, to my knowledge, these are kind of a random spawn. So I think there's 15 spots they can spawn. I might be wrong on that
Whoa.
number, but
Wow. I didn't
um,
realize it was that many.
there's a lot of them, and so and it's a random spawn. So really, what you're depending on is kind of zone chat to kind of call out where they are. And even when zone chat is calling out where they are, they're usually a little bit of a trek between the waypoints. So you kind of have to get there in time. Sometimes you miss it, and so there's a couple of them that are a little tricky to get to that I haven't farmed or got there in time.
Yeah, it's
Um,
surprising that they didn't borrow the way the dragons work. Like it seems like they could have incorporated a similar kind of thing from the elsewhere dragons. Like there's an indicator on the map of where the dragon event is happening. You can even see like the status of the fight based on the dragon's icon. You can tell if
yep,
maybe you don't want to waste your time traveling over there because it looks like it'll probably be dead by the time you get there anyway.
yep.
But there's really nothing like that for these, and it's weird because it seems like they've already done the hard work of putting a system like that together, and now they're just not using it.
Yeah, that's a really good point because that moving icon of the dragon on the map was a really kind of cool new feature, and I agree with you. It seems like they easily could have done this. The only thing I will say is that obviously these don't move, and so it seems like they went a little bit more dark anchor, but there's just so many of these that uh, uh,
Yeah,
and Blackreach makes it tricky too because sometimes they're down in Blackreach, sometimes they're up top in Greymoor, which makes it a little trickier to figure out what's going on as well. I do like them. They're so much fun. They're very very difficult. A lot going on. So many ads. Um, it's
yeah. I've done
it's
a few this past week, and they're crazy. They're quite an experience.
they really are.
I kind of wish the rewards were just a little bit more. I feel like the rewards are just a little lackluster. I feel like if
Yeah,
they could bump those up and just make it a little easier to get to these things and figure out where they're happening, they could be really cool, really
yeah.
fun.
I 100% agree with that. I will say the one thing I really like about them is with all the ads and all the stuff going on and the witches pikes and the bosses being summoned, more so than even dark anchors and then even dragons. With these more so, I feel like I can actually every time I've done one, I feel like I make a legit difference on the Harrowstorm. Like I'm killing certain ads. Like I'm actually making a difference in this thing. You go to a dark anchor now, and if there's other people there, you'll even see it sometimes. People are just kind of sitting and watching it, and just kind of for experience, they're not really doing anything. And dragons a little bit. Sometimes you can deal some damage with dragons, but that's one of the things I really like about these kind of a little subtle gem to them is that you actually every time I've been in one, you're actually taking down the ads, or I'll pick a certain sub boss and take it out. So it's kind
Yeah,
of
there's
cool
like
how
so
they've done
many
that.
different things going on. You can just kind of pick a thing and just say like, okay, I'm going to go take care of that situation over there. Looks like no one else is handling that, and you can
Yeah,
kind of take responsibility of certain things that are happening.
yeah. But I've been really excited about it. I mean, obviously, surprise, surprise. But the Nord expansion, Davies approved.
I got the Davia Star Jumper, Never Ending Nord seal of approval.
Seal of approval.
uh, cool, man.
um,
Well, yeah. What else?
so this one's kind of a big one, and this one's gonna come as a surprise to you. I feel like I've been holding this one back from you a little bit this week.
Oh, okay. Curveball
So
coming.
so I've been on Davis a lot, working with him. We've talked about this possible switching his build up a little bit. Um,
Yeah, and you've had him locked in for quite a while, so I'm
yeah, he's
really
been he's
curious.
been locked in a long time with the unique setup I've spoke on in the past with the Cold Harbor's favorite setup. But it's been a while, so just really just for the sake of change, we've talked about it in this new Winter's Respite set. I kind of had an idea of maybe working the mythic item Bloodlord's Embrace,
Uh-huh.
keeping the Cold Harbor's favorite, and maybe swapping out. He's got the Shulk set that gives him the ultimate build. Swapping that out for Winter's Respite to get kind of another AoE heal. So I was kind of tinkering with this, doing the full Greymoor zone. I have a just massive amount of Winter's Respite pieces now.
Uh-huh.
But I put it on there, kind of tested it out, and immediately when I did this, so the set procced, and it throws this frost thing out on the ground. And immediately what came into my mind is I said, this belongs on a Mag Warden.
Yeah.
I just immediately, so I'm going to be making a Mag Warden, and I'm going to be putting
Yes.
this on it. Um,
I've been trying to get you to make a Mag Warden for so long. I just
so
know
long.
you're going to love it.
Yes, so my Mag Warden setup is probably going to, and this is where it gets even more surprising probably, is probably going to steal some of the pieces from Davius. So my Mag Warden is going to be, be a support healing type character. So I'm thinking I'll probably take the Shulks and the Winter's Respite. At least that's kind of the base of that idea, and kind of make it a heal support type build.
Yeah.
But this probably means that Davius might be switching from a support character to a DPS character.
What?
I
don't
know.
believe what I'm hearing.
I know it. I have been toying with some build ideas this week of changing. He's getting kind of a massive overhaul, and here's really where it's coming from. So Davius's build, as we spoke in the past, is 100% heals. He does not do damage. He only does healing. It's 100% heals.
Absolute pacifist. This guy.
Pacifist, absolute. So, but he's my original character. Probably my overall favorite character. But I've noticed that I just don't enjoy PvP with him as much because he was built so perfectly for kind of group battlegrounds, and without that, he's just not very effective. Solo battleground queues with him don't really work anymore.
You really do need a coordinated group for that build to really shine, and then it truly shines in that situation.
Yeah, it does. It's great in those situations, but like you said, you need coordination. And in Imperial City, he doesn't really work because in Imperial City, you really need everybody dealing damage just to kind of help with the mobs.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the other area we do. And so that's kind of what kind of sparked this change is I'd like to play with him more, but his build right now currently isn't very effective. So kind of what I'm toying with here is kind of going all in on the jabs. And so my initial idea is to do War Maiden, which, that's the adds 400 weapon or spell damage to your Magicka abilities. So just a straight buff.
Magic damage. I think it's magic damage.
Yes, magic damage abilities. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so that's straight buff to jabs. And then I'm going to use the new crafted set spell Parasite. What this does, the 5-piece on this is whenever you deal damage, you restore 63 Magicka, and this effect can occur once every 0.25 seconds.
Yeah.
So that
seems like perfect for jabs.
Perfect for jabs, it seems like. So that's like what 2,400 Magicka with one jabs. So that's kind of where my focus is. I don't entirely know if I want to try to fit a mythic item in there or just go with a regular classic monster set. I haven't really dove deep enough for that. But it's kind of interesting just kind of thinking about that. It really got me thinking about these mythic items. They're really, really great. But they did such a good job of how great these mythic items are. They're not so great that you have to have them. I mean, they've really created this like difficult decision of, all right, do I want to do a mythic item or do I want to keep a monster set? It's really almost even. You can make it work both ways.
It's just it's a new option that you have to kind of get your build where you want it. You just have this new way of just kind of shifting the pieces and getting it all just really dialed into where you want it. It's just like that with the base crit resistance. We've talked about before. This is my favorite patch in a long time, just because it's giving players so many new options, so many new ways to get their builds just the way they like them, and it can still be viable and still be totally competitive. Really, really, really bravo for all the any issues that there may be with this patch performance-wise or anything like that. I think in terms of balance and just player choice and how they put their builds together, This is one of the best patches in a very long time. Once again, the noon siren is going off. It's not an actual emergency. They test the tornado sirens every Saturday. I feel like I have to acknowledge it every time because if someone's listening for the first time, they're like, "What? Am I going crazy? What is this noise?" We actually intended to start recording much earlier so as to avoid the siren, but we had a scheduling issue this morning, didn't we, Davius?
We had a slight scheduling mishap.
Hopefully the next episode there will be no siren, and
Yes, we should have sirens fixed going forward. That should be a fix going forward. That's our bug fix going forward.
Yeah. People start writing in, I missed the siren. Where's the siren?
Yeah, you guys remember when there used to be sirens? So pretty huge changes that Davies is going to be. He's still going to be, back.
I can't believe it.
I know, it's crazy. I couldn't believe it.
This guy's been a pure healer since day one.
Yeah, he has. He's been a healer most of the time.
He's going to be out there killing people. I'm not going to. It's like I'm going to have to cover my eyes, like Davies.
Who is this guy? What happened to him? He finally hit that age where he's just getting fed up.
Yeah. Well, Magplar is incredibly powerful as an offensive spec, so I think you'll probably have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, and it'll be a pretty easy transition because, on this character, I literally have 90% of the skills unlocked and leveled up.
Now, have you considered Stoon's favor, toppling charge?
I have contemplated it, shout out Stoon's Goons. But I'm gonna try the setup that I have.
Yeah, you like this idea. I get you.
But Stoons is on the list of possibilities. I like the idea of Davius rocking Stoons full time. I mean, that would be it's pretty great.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So other things. This one's kind of a damper, but the official, the Never Ending Nord, the Vampire Necro build. I'm just kind of putting it on pause, putting it on the shelf for now.
You'll just figure something else out later, I guess.
Yeah, I've done enough testing and tinkering now that it's really just kind of comes down to a simple issue. It's if I utilize the vampire damage buff toggle ability, his damage gets in the right place, but it is incredibly difficult to try to stay alive because it just constantly is ticking up more damage hitting you. And if I don't use that ability, then I actually can be pretty tanky and great survivability, but there's just no damage on the build. And then, we've talked in the past is that without that damage ability, that with the Vampire Toolkit, and really what I was going with this build, going full on Vampire with the Vampire Lord set, they don't have a burst ability. They have the spammable, and they have some other great abilities, but they just don't have a heavy hitting ability.
Yeah, it's not really an option to be like a pure vampire and be effective.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of shelve the build for now. Maybe some changes will come out in the future, and I'll tinker with it, or maybe I'll come up with some new ideas. But for now, it's kind of paused. Still have the character. Still love the name. Still like the look of the character. So I'll just have to pick it back up again somewhere down the road.
Yeah, it's just that particular build may not be it, but you may come up with some other idea that totally rocks. But I got to say, and we talked about it a little bit in the BG report last weekend, but I'm just not seeing a lot of really powerful vampires. I am seeing some vampires, but it's never a situation where I'm like, frightened or like, oh my gosh, there's a vampire, I better be careful. It's never anything like that.
Well, I think it just kind of comes down to that their abilities, they kind of have some cool utility, so you can kind of see some possibilities there, but you just can't. You're either you're gonna be the most glass cannon ever, or you just don't have to worry about them dealing damage. It's just kind of either or.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't quite work out yet. At least in a PvP. That's mainly what I'm referring to, is in a PvP environment. I don't know, maybe in PvE there's a way to make it work, but
well, I'm sure there's a way to make it viable, but like to make it competitive, like that's the thing is there a real like competitive edge or like a real reason you would really want to be a vampire. And I'm just not sure that that exists right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of missing. It feels like it's missing something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I say I'm shelving. I'll see kind of what changes will go forward, and we'll go from there. And then we had a great. Well, I say great. It was fun that we did had a goon night last night in Imperial City.
We did.
Maybe great won't describe the fights so much, but I was on my Stam Sork.
Yeah, you rode Stam Sork, and I kind of switched between a few different characters.
Yep.
It was fun. It's just Imperial City it's a different beast now than it was a few weeks ago. It's a different place. I mean, it's always been hopping on a Friday night or a Saturday night, but it's a whole new level now.
It was. I do have to point out, it was pretty funny. I Caliban, our guest from last week.
Yeah, Caliban.
From Adastra, the Adastra Guild was down there doing a full Guild Imperial City run. We run EP. They were actually on AD, and so we actually the two of us ran into them a couple times, and just
it didn't go well for us.
What a terrifying Zerg of just a massive amount of very talented PvP players.
Yeah, and we're talking like 20 to 30 people in this Zerg, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about Zergs most of the time is that the vast majority of them are fairly inexperienced players, and that's why they're in a Zerg, because safety and numbers.
Right.
But not the case here, man. Every single one of these players are like seasoned, hardened veterans. Like any one of them could probably smoke us 1v1, but there's 30 of them. So it was just like, man, no fun allowed, right? These guys just had the whole map shut down. It was intense.
It was like when you watched it from a distance, it was like this swarm of locusts that just was like just annihilating anything in its path, and they stayed together as a group. It was impressive to watch, depressing to fight.
Yeah.
But they actually that wasn't the whole night. We actually did quite a few fights. I have to point out that I made a final slight change to the Stam Sork. You actually recommended this, just a simple change. Switched the Torque of Tonal Constancy, the neck piece, to Infused to get a little bit more weapon damage. And man, that is the final finishing piece on that build. And
that little extra sauce you needed.
Oh man, it is fantastic. It got my weapon damage up to around 4,400.
Yeah.
Everything about that build is it is a fine-tuned machine right now.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling about my Stamplar, which I'll talk about shortly.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to. What about you?
Oh, well, I guess I'll talk about it right now then.
Boom.
Well, I finished the Greymoor main quest. I didn't finish the zones. I still actually have quite a ways to go on all of that. But I did finish the main story. I thought it was really, really good. Just like you said, a very well-told story, and just the journey getting there was fun. The NPCs were more enjoyable, more believable as characters than ever.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was really fun. I really just enjoyed the story quite a bit, and I think maybe it was a little predictable. I saw some of the twists coming, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I still feel like it was well told, and it was a good time for sure.
Listen, I want to hear you say that you love Nords right now. You say it.
They're an excellent PvP class or race. I mean. So yeah, I'm still going to be chipping away at that content. I do want 100% that zone and everything, because I really do enjoy the atmosphere and the vibe of the whole expansion. So I'm definitely going to be hanging out there quite a bit more. I'm getting my antiquities leveled up. I'm level 9 on my antiquities. So it's like getting from 9 to 10 seems to take like 10 times as long as getting from 1 to 9.
Yeah, it's like doing it twice over, it seems like.
Yeah. But we're getting there. And then besides that, I've just been working on a lot of builds and doing a lot of PvP and stuff. So I just talked about Betsy, my Stamina Templar, and I feel like I need to take a moment and explain what's going on here. take a drink of water.
Preparation. Drum. You want me to give a drum roll here?
Deep breath. So, on the last episode, I cracked a joke that this was the third time that I said that this build is finished here on the podcast, right? And I had made the video. I put it on YouTube. It was out there, and I did do that. But then, basically, the next day, I pieced together, frankly, a much, much superior version of the build. Just not even a comparison. And the previous version of the build I thought was fine. It was good. I was getting great results with it. But this new version, I'm telling you, it's next level. And this is my favorite character. This is my main. So I want to make sure that I'm absolutely doing her justice, absolutely showing the best possible version of this character that I can. So I took the build video down. The one that I put up last weekend, and I'm working on making another one. Now that the setup has changed, I have some transmuting to do once again. But once all that's done, I'll remake that video. It's going to be better than ever, and I'm really excited about it. And just a quick preview, it's 5 pieces Bone Pirate, 5 pieces Deadly Strikes on the front bar with a Master Bow on the back bar. Still got the Ring of the Wild Hunt and a 1-piece Molag Kenna or Bloodspawn, depending on if I feel like I need more recovery or damage. So I'm still on the fence with that one. But that's pretty much what the build is looking like. Deadly Strikes, super duper popular Stamplar set for sure. And I normally try to stay kind of away from sets that are basically the meta, because that's already established, that's already been done, and I'm trying to find like other interesting creative build ideas. But the thing is, I put this set on, and now it won't release me. Okay,
it has consumed you.
I can't take it off. It makes my jabs so strong. I can't believe it. And what's really nice too is I'm not really having to sacrifice the build. I'm not having to sacrifice the play style. And that's the beauty of this patch that I was talking about earlier. Nothing about what I love about how this character plays has been sacrificed at all. She's still speedier, faster than she's ever been. She has more sustain than she's ever had. And she has more damage than she's ever had. So it's just a better version of the same old build that I've been loving this whole time.
Yeah. I think the biggest piece to it is just how much harder that build hits now from the previous patch. Is that it's always been it's been your favorite build. It's always been effective, and it's been kind of strategic about picking your fights. And now I feel like it's like exact same quickness, speed, but it'll take on anybody with the damage and heavy hitting it does.
Yeah, with the Master Bow, it's an infused Master Bow with a weapon damage glyph. So you hit someone with your poison injection, and that's like 780 weapon damage that you have against that person now. And then you get those jabs that are being empowered by the Deadly Strike set, and it's overwhelming. The revised Stamina Templar build will be forthcoming. I've also been spending a little bit of time on a Stamina Necromancer bow build, and I've mentioned this in the past, but I've been working on it a little more. He's got the Snow Treaders. He's using the Swamp Raider set, which buffs your disease and poison damage. It gives like 400 weapon damage to all your disease and poison damage abilities, and that's all he has in his kit. That's all of his damage is poison and disease. He's using the Black Rose Prison Bow on the front bar and a Potentate's Greatsword on the back bar. And I won't do a deep dive on that build right now because I'm still tinkering with things and figuring stuff out. It's going to be a little bit before he's totally ready to be unveiled. But that's kind of the idea that I'm working with. The Swamp Raider with the Black Rose Prison Bow is kind of the main thing there that I'm trying to get some good results out of. And then I'm experimenting with like agility jewelry and a 1-piece monster set.
I have to say that of course the Ring of the Wild Hunt is your favorite mythic item. But I feel like you have the most fun with the Snow Treaders.
The Snow Treaders is awesome because you can run straight through a Zerg and they can't stop you. You can just go straight on through all their AoE and everything. And if you have some some speed built in that doesn't rely on sprint, you can still move faster than most players, and especially considering that you can't be snared in anything. So it is really fun, kind of trolly, and he actually does hit fairly hard. But that's the thing I'm trying to work on is just how to get the damage higher, because I feel like there are certain fights that I've tried with that guy that just are unwinnable. So I think I need to get that damage a little higher. And then I've been spending quite a lot of time with one more build, and this is my Magic and Necromancer healer support build for PvP. And I've mentioned it before in the past. I've been working on it for a little while, and now it is completely finished. I have all the pieces done, everything's transmuted, golded out. It's all there, and it's an awesome build. So we're going to do kind of a spotlight on this build here today. We're going to kind of dive deep into this one. But before we do, I'm going to kind of explain this new idea that we're trying out here. And I definitely want to get listeners' feedback and hear what people think about this idea, see if they think it works or whatever, because it's just something we want to try. And if it works well, maybe we'll keep doing it. If not, we'll reconsider. But I think it could be a cool idea. So the idea is basically whenever we have a build that's ready that we want to make a video for, and it could be a build that Davius or myself makes, then we'll make it like a featured segment on the podcast here, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it like kind of in depth, and then we'll lift the audio from that segment and use that as the voiceover for the build video on YouTube. And then the video would still be the same, like I would still have the Battlegrounds footage and the graphic overlays to illustrate what I'm talking about. I think it could be interesting, and it'll help me, save time because we're knocking two birds out with one stone. We're recording podcast content, and it doubles as build video content. And, believe it or not, I do have a day job and a personal life, and I don't have a ton of time to work on these things. So
how dare you?
Anyway, I can kind of save time like that. I think is going to be a good thing. And I just genuinely think it'll be a cool thing to talk about on the podcast. We love talking about theorycraft and builds and stuff like that, so it seems to make perfect sense. Okay, so let's get into it. This is a Magicka Necromancer PvP healer support build. We'll just talk about the non-CP setup here, but there will be links in the description for the non-CP and the CP setup. And I'll also do an alternate gear selection as well, because the gear in this build can be kind of difficult to get a hold of. So I'll have some options there. And the idea for the build, so flavor-wise, my idea for a Magicka Necromancer, when I think of how they would support their allies, the way I think they would primarily go about doing that would be really by weakening and hindering their enemies. And so that's kind of a big focus of this build. There's a lot of very powerful debuffs and crowd control and ways to just generally make life miserable for any enemies that are nearby. And then at the same time, we have these massive, through-the-roof heals as well. So our allies are taking way less damage, and then the damage that they do take, they're recovering from it very quickly because we have all these heals going around.
You really get a really great feel of you're taking away from your enemies and giving to your allies. And so it really is this taking from them, giving to the allies. Really feeds into that idea that you're talking about there.
Yeah, it's very necromancer-y for sure. Yeah.
Patting that word right now.
Yeah. And so I think for those reasons, it's actually an excellent build for this patch because, this patch damage is way, way up. And healing has been nerfed at the same time. And so you can make life a lot easier on your allies by having this build around, because you're like I just said, you're reducing a lot of the damage that they're taking in, and you're giving them an overabundance of healing. Plus all the crowd control and stuff. It really, honestly, for a healer build, this feels like the most abusive build that I've ever played as a healer. Even though I'm not really doing much damage at all, but just you can see any enemies that are nearby, they're just struggling against all this CC, and they're weak, they're doing hardly any damage. It's a real struggle for them. The race is Argonian, mainly for the extra healing done, and I'm also using the Ritual Mundus Stone for even more healing done, and that's kind of a consistent theme throughout the build. We're just going to be stacking that healing done stat as high as we can. For the consumables, I'm using just regular tri-stat food and spell power potions. And for the stats, again, I'll put a link to the UESP build in the description, so you can take a look at the stats there. I will just mention, you'll notice that the spell damage is very, very low. And that's because we're not investing in spell damage whatsoever in this build. Anywhere where we would invest in spell damage, we're instead investing in healing done or magicka recovery. That's the focus here. So it truly is strictly a support and healing build. So it's Mighty Chudan, Mending, aka the Healing Mage set, and Critical Riposte. So it's just a classic 5-5-2 setup, no mythic items, no arena weapons, or anything like that. But the gear can be pretty difficult to get a hold of. Mighty Chudan drops from the final boss of Veteran Ruins of Mazatoon, which is a DLC dungeon. The Healing Mage set comes from Etherean Archive, which is a 12-player trial in Craglorn. And Critical Riposte is a Cyrodiil crafted set. If you happen to be in the Aldemary Dominion, then you'll have a pretty easy time getting a hold of this. Otherwise, it could be hard to get a hold of because it is located deep, deep, deep in AD territory. So yeah, for that reason, I'll have an alternate gear selection as well for using stuff that's a little easier to get a hold of. I'm using 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy. All 7 pieces are divines. And we can get away with wearing 7 divines really easily because of this Critical Riposte set. So the 2 through 4 piece bonuses of this set alone give you enough critical resistance so that you don't need to worry about critical resistance at all anywhere else in your builds. You don't need any NPen. Remember, our characters were given base critical resistance this patch. So just with that and the 2 through 4 pieces, we have more crit resist than we had last patch already. So we can just stack that divines, go 7 divines, and pump up that healing Mundus as much as possible. And then the 5-piece bonus on top of that, when it procs, it reduces your enemy's critical strike chance and critical damage by 10%, so even more critical mitigation. And this critical mitigation applies to the rest of your team, right? Because it's a debuff that you're applying to that enemy. So they're going to be critting less often, and their crits are going to hit less hard, no matter who they hit. So this is basically eliminating the crit bonuses that Nightblades, Templars, and Khajiit get from their passives. You know, so if you're fighting against one of those people, you're just straight up removing one of the things that gives them an edge.
I think that works extra good too, because as a healer and hitting these strong heals, this character, you know, I've run with this character. I see you get focused, and so you're just saying thank you. You're like, yes, please do come hit me, so you can you can spread that debuff.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit, but that's absolutely part of the strategy. You're trying to draw the attention of people. It's a very easy proc with a really high uptime, and the cooldown is per target, so you can have this debuff active on multiple targets at once. So it's a really, really great set. Mighty Chudan, we've talked about this before, Davius. This is just a really great set on any character, on any build that you feel like you have too many things to juggle, too many timers, too many cooldowns you're trying to keep track of. That is absolutely the case on this build, I can tell you. So not having to worry about an armor buff, just getting that at all times from Mighty Chudan, and it's just always there. I can just forget about it. It really goes a really long way. Especially, you know, your armor buff is really important. You definitely don't want to let that drop off. And the fact that I can just forget about it and just know that it's there, and I can just focus on keeping my team alive, keeping my enemies debuffed, keeping my crowd control on the ground. Big fan of Mighty Chudan.
Yeah, it's a great set. And even the 1 piece of the 1487 armor and the 2 piece adding 1206 max health. Those are both great extras to permanent major resolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Mending, aka the Healing Mage. And I always say Mending, aka the Healing Mage, because depending on like what website you're searching on or where you're searching in the game or whatever, it's like it searches for one of those 2 terms, and so it's sometimes you'll find it one way, sometimes you'll find it the other way. So I always say both names because it's a weirdly named set. So the 5-piece bonus of this set, whenever you cast an AoE healing ability, you reduce the weapon damage of nearby enemies for 430 for 3 seconds. Now, 3 seconds is a very short duration, but with the right rotation, you can keep a pretty high uptime very easily, and we'll talk a little bit later about exactly how to do that. And 430 weapon damage reduction. I mean, that basically negates the damage bonus of New Moon Acolyte for stamina builds.
Yeah.
And it is worth noting that the debuff does not apply to spell damage, so it doesn't really affect Magicka builds. But this set only has a 10-meter range anyway, and the biggest threats that are within that range are probably going to be stamina brawlers spamming dizzying swing. Yeah. So the people that it matters for the most, it's applying to them.
Well, and it works really well too, because right now, stamina is really popular and, is doing really well right now. But even, you talk about New Moon, this really reduces a lot of damage sets out there, Sword Singers, Automaton. This basically just erases those 5-piece bonus from those sets.
Yeah, or imagine if someone's just using like Hunting's Rage. It takes away more damage than Hunting Rage is giving them.
Yeah.
The jewelry, all 3 pieces are infused with Magicka recovery glyphs, and then the weapons on the front bar, I'm using a charged Frost Staff with a Frost enchantment, and on the back bar, it's a powered Resto Staff with a weakening enchantment. So we'll talk about the skill bars. So on the front bar, the main 2 abilities that you want to focus on are Wall of Frost and the Remote Totem. These are your 2 main CC abilities. And basically, these 2 abilities combined give you complete ownership over whatever piece of ground you happen to be standing on. It belongs to you and no one can take it from you.
Yes.
Wall of Frost will snare your enemies, it'll slow them down, plus it has a very high chance to apply the chilled status effect, so that's going to immobilize them and apply minor maim, so again, further reducing the amount of damage that they're able to do. Plus we're using the charged trait and a frost glyph on the staff, so that even further increases our chances to apply that chilled status effect, so it's nearly guaranteed. You put that Wall of Frost down on someone, they're going to get that chilled status effect almost every time. And so combined with the Fear Totem, all nearby enemies are getting snared, immobilized, maimed, and feared on cooldown. So they just don't want anything to do with that, and they'll almost always back off immediately. And that's when you and your team turn and push and keep pushing into them and keep dropping these AoEs on top of them, and you're basically just keeping them on the back foot at all times. They can never kind of get a leg to stand on, and you just maintain the upper hand the entire time. That's why I say it feels downright abusive, even though you're not really doing that much damage. You're creating this kind of disaster zone situation where your enemies just don't know what to do. Another important ability on the front bar is Blast Bones. Now this is an offensive ability, and it doesn't do a ton of damage because we're not really spec'd into damage. But this, along with the Flaming Skull, it can serve as a good enough deterrent if someone starts trying to focus you. Once they realize that you're pretty hard to kill, plus they're having to deal with all this CC you're throwing around, and you're throwing a little bit of damage at them, a lot of the time they're just going to say, you know what, never mind. And just go find someone else. So even though it's not much damage, the fact that it's any at all that you're just throwing back at someone is a pretty good deterrent.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It works well as the deterrent, and as a group, it works really well as with the amount of heals and support and debuff it's doing. It does just enough damage to kind of take a group over the top.
Yeah, just a little bit of like supplemental damage to help your DDs get those kills.
Yeah.
But the real reason for using Blast Bones is that it generates a corpse. And we'll talk about why that's important in a minute, but basically you just want to have corpses around, right? You're a necromancer. And then Race Against Time, of course. It's a Magicka build, so it's got to have Race Against Time. That's
a requirement.
Yeah. It gives you Major Expedition and Snare and Root immunity, both in one low-cost skill. It's just the most valuable skill in the game for a Magicka build, for a Magicka spec, in my opinion. So definitely, and especially for a Necromancer who has 0 mobility otherwise, I think that it's absolutely not optional. You got to have this ability. And then for the front bar ultimate, I'm using the Colossus ultimate, and I'm using the Stamina Morph because it applies that major vulnerability, and that's what we're really wanting. The damage is actually pretty decent. I feel like the damage is pretty big no matter what kind of character you put it on, even a healer. But it's really the debuff that I'm really interested in, that major vulnerability. On the back bar, we have Braided Tether. This is an ability that consumes that corpse we just made to provide a strong AoE heal over time. And it's free to cast. As long as you have a corpse around, you can cast it, and it doesn't cost anything. It also, just by having it slotted, it gives us an extra 3% healing done. And so that's on top of our Argonian passive, our Ritual Mundus, our Healing Mage 4-piece bonus, our Powered Resto Staff, our Curative Curse passive. It's a grand total of 45% bonus healing, basically at all times. Unless, maybe you don't have that Curative Curse passive active, in which case it's 37% bonus healing all the time.
And the full Divine's gear.
Yeah, well, that goes into the Ritual Mundus. So it's 15% healing done instead of 10% healing done because I have the Divine's gear. So yeah, you'll have minimum 37% bonus healing at all times, and you'll usually have 45% bonus healing at all times if you have a negative effect on you. We also have Illustrious Healing, Radiating Regeneration, and the Intensive Mender. These are your heal over time abilities, and you basically just want to try to keep these up at all times during combat, and as long as you do, your teammates are basically going to have a very difficult time dying, right?
Yeah. I think the biggest part to this one, and this is really stealing your words, but the Intensive Mender is basically dropping a breath of life every 2 seconds without you even having to think or worry about it.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I did want to talk about the Intensive Mender specifically for a second. So if you're ever in a situation where it's like a panic emergency situation and you need to cast some ability and you're trying to prioritize what's the most important ability that I can cast right now, it's your Intensive Mender. That's the one that you want to have active all the time, no matter what. This thing, like Davius just said, it basically tosses out the equivalent of a breath of life every 2 seconds. It's a smart heal, so it just automatically targets whoever needs it, and it gives them this huge burst heal. It costs very, very little. It also can serve as a body block. If it's between you and somebody trying to target you, they can hit your Mender instead. So it's a really great ability. I love the fact that I can summon it and then just go line of sight or go pay attention to something else and just trust that Mender is looking out and doing work. I also have Resistant Flesh, and this is my main burst heal. And I say main, which implies that I use it a lot, but I really actually hardly ever use this ability because the heals over time are so strong, they're usually sufficient, and by the time I'm thinking, like I'm reaching to cast this ability, oh, it's too late. They're already full health now, so I don't actually need to cast it. But once in a while you do need it to bring someone just from the brink of death. You do need to have a really strong burst heal, and this is a really, really powerful heal. When you're fully buffed, the tooltip is like around 11,000 or so, so really strong.
Yeah.
And then we're using the Resto Staff Ultimate Life Giver, and that's just our emergency bailout. Give us a second chance if your team is about to die, or even just like one person is about to die. This one ultimate right here basically guarantees that they're going to stay alive at least for a few more seconds, especially if you have your Intensive Mender up at the same time. They're getting that on top of it, and they basically just can't die.
It works really well too, and if you're in a intense group fight, you get an enemy team kind of do an ult dump. This is fantastic for trying to survive through that.
Great ultimate. So as I mentioned before, there is a bit of a skill rotation, and of course in PvP it's not always possible to pull off a perfect rotation every time. There's a lot going on, a lot of in-the-moment decisions you have to make. And for like damage builds, we don't even really call it a rotation, right? We usually use the word combo instead because it's a more like accurate description. But this build actually does use a fairly set rotation to make sure that we're applying all of our HOTS and CCs on cooldown, and just to make sure that our debuffs has as high an uptime as possible. So it might not always be possible to do this exact rotation, depending on what's going on, but in general, you should always be trying to kind of default back to this sequence as much as you can. So you'll start on your front bar and cast Blast Bones, and that's just to make sure that you're going to have a corpse available here in just a few seconds. Then you lay down your Remote Totem and your Wall of Frost, then swap to the back bar and cast Illustrious Healing, and that's going to be the first time that we proc that Healing Mage debuff. Then we cast Braided Tether to consume that Blast Bones corpse we just made. Then we summon the Intensive Mender, and at this point that Healing Mage debuff is already about to expire, so then we cast Radiating Regen to refresh it. And so these are our two abilities that proc Healing Mage. It's Radiating Regen and Illustrious Healing. Those are the two abilities that we have that will proc this set. And so that's why they're kind of spaced out in the rotation, just to make sure that we're refreshing that debuff at a nice consistent interval throughout the rotation. And so, yeah, after you cast Radiating Regen, just flip back to your front bar and start over again with Blast Bones. So I'll just do a recap of that just to kind of make it a little more concise. So you start on the front bar and do Blast Bones, Remote Totem, Wall of Frost. Flip to the back bar and do Illustrious Healing, Braided Tether, Intensive Mender, Radiating Regen, then start over on the front bar. So really not that hard. With a little bit of practice, it can be pretty simple. And if you need to do a heavy attack to restore some resources, I recommend doing that right after Illustrious Healing. Lay that on the ground, then do your heavy attack right before you do the Braided Tether. And also wanted to talk a little bit more about Critical Riposte. Davius, you and I you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the idea to get the most out of this set and to get the most out of your class passives, you want to be up in the fray of combat. You want to go you basically want to get hit with enemy AoE. That's your goal. So you have plenty of heals to survive it, so don't worry about that. It's not going to be a problem to stay alive. And so what you want to do is when there's a fight, don't hang back and try to heal your team from afar. Go stand up in that fight, lay your AoEs and all your heals down on the ground. And you think about, you have Stamsorks with Hurricane, or just sorcerers in general with their lightning form. You have Dragon Knights with their spiked armor. They're going to be hitting you with that. You have Wardens with their sub-assault. Basically almost everyone has some sort of like passive AoE that's going on all the time. They're going to be hitting you without even meaning to, and they're going to be proccing this debuff. And at the same time, probably a lot of those things are going to be applying some sort of negative effect to you, like the burning status effect or fracture or something like that. And so that's going to proc your Curative Curse passive and increase the amount of healing that you're giving to your team overall. So, it seems counterintuitive, but those are good things. You want to be getting hit with that AoE. You want to be getting those negative effects applied to you. You have more than enough healing to survive it, and your team as a whole is going to be benefiting from it. So anyway, that's that. This is the first time we're trying this new sort of format, a new segment on the podcast, and a new way of doing a build video. And I think it's going to work okay, because I think it was mostly still pretty focused and on the point. We didn't really meander too much. I feel like it might work all right.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear feedback from listeners of the podcast or anyone watching the video. Just make a comment or send an email to scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you think, and I'd love to take that feedback and make adjustments based on that. No emails this week. We were on a roll there for a while. There were like 3 weeks in a row where we had some actual emails to read, but none this week. If you'd like to send us an email, you can do that at scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. That's scrolling with an I-N, no G. You can give us any corrections if we were just wrong about something, or if you have any questions or anything you'd like to hear us talk about, tell us a funny joke, whatever, really whatever you want. Just want to say hi, that's fine too. Scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. I think that's going to be the end of the episode. Kind of a short one this week, not a lot of news, and we've just been kind of getting into Greymoor, and we don't really want to spoil a lot of story stuff, so I think we ought to keep that as short and sweet as possible.
Yep.
Anything to add, Davis, before we say goodbye?
I just got to say, if you see this stampede of people running around, it's probably Stoon's Goons. They should join up. I'll leave the recruitment to you, but...
Oh, yeah, Stoon's Goons. Thank you for the reminder. Let's see. We have a guild. It's called Stoon's Goons. If you'd like to be a member of that, you can send us an email at scrollandpodcast@gmail.com, or you can hit us up in-game at Ket Sparrowhawk or at Star Jumper. We'll get you invited in there, get you your free set of Students Favor, take you on a goon night, show you what it's all about. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the end of the episode, right?
I think so.
Okay, bye.